Hey everyone, and welcome to the Wide Awake podcast. My name is Joshua Rubin, and I'm your host. If you haven't seen my previous documentary, you wouldn't know that I recently had autoplasty surgery, and that's a small surgery where you get your ears pinned back. And if you've been watching the show for a while, you'll know that this is something that I've always wanted to do, and it's a decision that I didn't take lightly and something that I've literally thought about my whole life. So the response you guys gave on my documentary and all the messages I've received on Instagram have been incredible, and they've made this process and journey so much more enjoyable and fun. It's been really fun. But without further ado, let's talk about this week's episode. This week, we have an incredible podcast. I interviewed Duduzane Zuma, who is the son of former President Jacob Zuma, and we talked about what his childhood was like growing up in a family with Jacob Zuma as your father, 6 mothers, and 24 siblings. Imagine those family dynamics. It was super interesting to get into. We also talked about a bunch of his scandals, including his relationship with the Guptas and the fact that he's been debanked because of his relationship with them. We also went into how he started his own political party and his journey through the political world and some of the major figures he's met, like President Putin and President Mugabe. And then we talked about some of his memories from his childhood and just his formative years. And some of that stuff was really interesting to listen to. So without further ado, I introduce Duduzane Zuma. Well, it's awesome to have you here, man.
Thank you very much. Awesome.
We've been talking about it for a while, and
it's been a minute. But we're here. Finally,
I'm glad we're finally doing it. So, I was just doing a bit of research on you, and I saw that you were born in Maputo,
yes,
in Mozambique.
Correct.
That's really interesting, right? Because you're in politics now in South Africa. How did that happen? Like, how were you born in Maputo? Yeah, just tell me a little bit about that, your earlier years.
Yeah, so it was early 80s, 82. I was born in 1982. And at that time, the South African situation was different. So parents on the run, they were doing their whole freedom fighting thing as part of the ANC and other structures at that point. So a lot of them had to move around. People were living in different parts of the world. Angola, Mozambique, Tanzania, so and others were living in Europe, in the UK. Others were being trained in Russia and Ukraine. So others in Cuba. So there was a whole host of people in different parts of the world. So we had the good fortune of staying closer to home. So that was the Mozambique story. A lot of people that we still hold dear till today. We met them on the journey. Some of them were born in Mozambique, others were operating in Mozambique. And yeah, that was that. From there we moved to Zimbabwe, lived in Zambia for a short time, and then ended up in South Africa. So linking it to the part of your question where you mentioned politics, I think it's more of, it's in the blood, it's in the DNA. It's one of those things where if you spend enough time with your elders, parents, you tend to assimilate to a certain ideology, a certain understanding of what's happening. Times change, ideas change, ideologies shift in some cases, and it brings me to where we are now, politics in South Africa and what needs to be done.
So you were born there,
yes,
right? Your dad was in exile in Mozambique. So how long were you there for? From you were born to how old?
To probably around 86.
So was that 4 years old?
86, 87 before we moved out. Yeah, it was around that. Yeah, so that was basic formative years. Grew up speaking Portuguese. That was my first language. Then English, and then that was the Mozambique part.
One of the most interesting things, and I'm sure people have talked to you about this a lot over the years, right? Is your family dynamic.
Yeah.
So are you the oldest son?
No. Would be. I actually don't know. I'll have to ask Mark. No, I'm joking. Now I'm third. Let's say 1, 2, joint fourth eldest.
Fourth oldest. Okay. So your dad is Jacob Zuma.
Yes.
And your mom was called Kate, right?
Yes, correct.
And Jacob Zuma has, I think there's 14 kids.
No.
How many kids are there?
I don't know, bro.
You don't know?
I'll ask him when I see him. I'm seeing him next week. But no, it's Probably about 24 and counting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So online it says 14.
No. That was before the.
That was a while ago.
That was before the 2010 World Cup. I think now we've got 2 squads. We're above the 20. We got 2 squads.
And he's had 6 wives, right?
Yeah, to this point, I believe it's 6
wives.
Yeah.
What is that like? Because I know this might sound a bit ignorant, right? But I am like a white guy. I grew up in like a really like standard family.
Pleasantville.
Like, I got like normal mom, normal dad, normal brother. We went to school. They've been together their whole life. And like, just when I was thinking about you and your family dynamic and the way everything works, right? It's like, how does that all work? How does a family operate with 1 husband, 6 wives, and 24 kids?
It operates. It runs. It runs like any other machine, There'll be times where it's running optimally. There'll be times where there's some parts that need a bit of tweaking. But it runs, So the interesting thing is now integrating into South African society. So now we're coming out of exile, and now it's our South African family, and we've missed out on a lot of the formative South African developmental stories of what culture will be, and the practices around it. Fathers, the family is Zulu, and those things that come with being Zulu. The rituals, the upbringing, herding, whatever it is that is expected to be done by a young man. So there's a lot of steps that were skipped, and still playing catch up till today. That's just the truth from a South African perspective. So you have different mothers, different siblings, half brothers, half sisters. From my mother, there's 5 of us, and then the rest, split up. There's some 4 here, there's 2 there. So it's quite an interesting dynamic, because I can only speak of it from my experience. So the first time I came across someone else being called my mother, I was like, oh, what the hell are you talking about, man? No, this is your other mother, and these are your sisters. And I'm like, what you telling me? I was on my Josh. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I was also in Pleasantville, at that time.
Yeah.
Not being exposed to the dynamic of what polygamy is, and the extended family, the broader family. So it took time to adjust to it, and I'll say it was over a period of maybe 2 or 3 adjustments, and that would be within 15 years, where I realized I was like, okay, cool, I get it. First it's confusion, it's resentment, and then it becomes understanding, and to some point tolerance, and then it becomes acceptance and respect for what this thing is, because you get to understand, and at the point where I'd lost my mother, that's when I realized, the whole machine came together. So a lot of the pain and a lot of the trauma around it was cushioned to a certain degree, because there were people around that were able to play their part and fill that role. So I feel like when it comes to certain dynamics, when there are certain trigger points, things start making sense, At first, it just runs and you're just left in a zone of confusion. But then when things start clicking, when life goes on, when people start getting to certain points in their lives, and it's like, okay, I get it. So I'm at a point where I get it. It's not easy. And it's something that I've grown to respect and appreciate to a large degree.
Just listening to it, and it sounds like you've kind of really struggled to understand where you fit in, right, in this whole space, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Because even like as a person that's just got 1 sibling, right, and there's my whole family's 4 people.
Yeah.
I sometimes find it hard to find where I fit in that dynamic, right? And I could imagine like growing up, there's kids everywhere, or there's, maybe not even, but you've got so many siblings, there's so many people around, there's so many aunties, uncles. It must have just felt like overwhelming.
No, it's mad. It's absolutely mad. It's just like, it takes some getting used to. You know, so the funny thing is, there was a period, and we laugh about it as siblings. There was a period where every year we'd be introduced to our brother or sister. It was always done over the Christmas period. So, it'd be a
Softer blow.
Yeah. So, it's like just like there'll be a baby and it's like, okay, cool, hey, cute kid, whatever. What do you mean cute kid? That's your little bro.
That's insane.
Like, huh? What do you mean little bro?
dude.
Like, no one tells you. It's not one of those things like, okay, we're expecting not. Rock up, this is who he is. This is how he fits into the family. Keep it moving.
And it's like you don't
That's
even
just what
know
it
the
is.
mom, probably.
Yeah. In most cases, like you'll get to Nkanja in this point, and that's always. So it got to a point like every time you go there, you see a little kid, and it's like family or not family, But it just is what it is. People do what it is that they need to do. He's a father figure. They're the elders. It's their lives. They do what they need to do, and you get to understand that.
And was there a lot of like vying for his attention in a way between the kids and all the different moms? And like, I'm sure because he is like the central figure in all this, right?
He's an oak tree for
Out
sure.
of the whole family, there's only one husband.
Yeah.
But there's so many of everyone else,
Correct.
I guess.
Yes.
So like, did you and any of your brothers and sisters and maybe mothers ever feel like like a lot of tension in the air when there was like family events for attention and time? And
I think it's a great question. I think what's weird about the situation would be growing up, it was normal to not see my old man for months. When he came around. It was just like, okay, cool, he's out doing his freedom fighting thing, great. And then at some point when you start realizing, hold on one second, this is not normal, because, we come across the Joshes, they're having lunch and dinner every day and, being dropped off at school. And it's, it's like, okay, that's nice. I haven't had that before. I wonder what that feels like. You shake it off, you keep it moving. And then over a period of time, when it comes to family functions, family dynamics, and functions being anything from a meal to a funeral to a wedding, that's when you start seeing the jockeying. It's a natural thing. It happens all over the show and all the time in our family as well. And from my side, I've seen my father as a busy guy, and that's how I took it. And over a period of time, I'm 42 now, and it's something that closer to the age I'm at now, I'm like, no, I can't do that no more. It's all love. When I see you, when I see you, because he's busy. We understand he's busy. He's got, his life has just been meetings. Every time it's a meeting, it's at home, it's at the office. It's if he's staying in a hotel, you walk into a hotel and you see different groups of people to meet him. Even worse when he was still in government as deputy president, as a head of state. Dude was always busy. So prioritizing. So he's got the one statement that he made, and it's definitely true, where he set his priorities on what it is that he deems important. And he said this, and it's so I'm quoting him. In his life, in order of importance, it was the ANC, then government, then family. And it's, you learn to understand it and be like, okay, it is what it is. So the jockeying, it happens. I see it happening a lot. I'm not a guy that jockeys for position. When I see you is when I see you. I've got a great relationship with him. We speak, openly with each other, and we understand each other. So, we don't have to be in each other's space every day, all day. When we see each other from time to time, it's all love. It's all love, yeah.
And have you ever asked him why he has kind of done what he's done in terms of family? Like, why have so many kids? Why so many wives? Why not just have a small, close-knit family?
That family dynamic is like a dojo. You don't question the master. You don't do it.
You don't walk into his dojo.
You don't walk into his dojo
and make the
put your
mask.
little pink belt. Nah.
He's probably just like, listen,
No. It's like, yo, before I put you in a kimura, little ninja, chill out. No, just I think the level of respect that we all have for him.
Okay.
It's just something that it's you don't question it. It just is what it is. He's the elder. He's the oak tree of the family. And by virtue of that, he gets to do what he gets to do. You know, you want to live your life, you go do your thing, set your own rules. This is my kraal, boss. I run ish here.
And I want to talk just briefly about your mom, right? Because I think there's quite a. I mean, I'm sure it's been spoken a lot about, but I feel like there's something untold story there in a way, right?
Yeah.
Can you just give me a little bit of a perspective or a little bit of a description of your mom and who she was and what she meant to you?
My mom was an ass whipper. Yeah. She used to beat the living daylights out of us, bro. Till this day. When I look back, I'm like, was it necessary?
No, probably not.
No, probably not. You know, it was like, it was heavy. You know, it was one of those, typical African family. Chief. Any moving part in the house is a weapon, chief. It was like a Royal Rumble out there. You know, and I was the one always getting my ass beat because everything that went wrong.
It's always Dudu's fault.
Till today, it's always my fault.
It's always my fault. We're the same. We're literally the same.
Always my fault. Yeah. So she was a cool old lady. Okay, I won't say old lady. So the strange thing is I'm 42 now. She passed away when she was 44. Well, didn't pass away. She took her own life when she was 44. That's in 2 years' time. And I just tried to link back my experiences, my life, where I'm at now, and just trying to understand the dynamic in what was going on in her mind at the time, you know, because it's a serious thing for someone to do what they did and get themselves, into that position. So just trying to understand it is something that, I'm still studying it and I'm still experiencing it and trying to get to the answers from the way I see it. But she was a loving a mother. My eldest brother was a favorite for the longest period. Should I say older brother? Sorry, there's an eldest. Older brother was a favorite. And then when my younger brother was born, he became the favorite. And he actually passed away a few years ago as well.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Passed away he had lupus, autoimmune disease.
I know quite a few people with lupus.
Yeah, so he was managing it. And then, it was just one of those things where do you do the homeopathic stuff or do you do the pharmaceutical stuff? And, he's always having that battle of,
You mean like traditional medicine?
Yeah, no, not like going into a hut and burning smoke and eating some roots. But, the stuff you get over the counter, there's some good herbal stuff out there. So she was very loving. She was always present, but she was super, super strict. Super strict. My skateboarding career ended, as an example, when we were living in Zimbabwe. I did a little bit of damage to the house, trying to learn some kick flips, meaning broken windows and stuff. And that was the loss of it, So it was the sort of thing where there was no negotiation. She took no prisoners, and that was it. And she set some serious house rules. And she was, the one story is she'd always say, look, there's a certain time that you're back in the house. If you're not, we'll catch you the following day. There's going to be no, this is the time, go have your fun. She always let us run and do our thing on the outside. But, when you come back, there's a certain time, respect the rules, respect the household. The one time I came back, the cutoff time was 6. I came back at 8 p.m. How old was I? Maybe about 14. And life carried on without me. I was the guy on the outside looking in. And it's not a conversation.
They just ignore you?
Yeah, just like, the rules. It's not a conversation. And,
That's crazy.
And then the next morning, 6 a.m., hey, cool, come back in. And then, as much as it was a hard lesson, it was a lesson nonetheless, And it's a life's lesson. There's certain rules, there's certain terms and conditions when it comes to all sorts of stuff, whether it be work stuff, whether it be relationships, family, and, just stick to the script. You're not here to do your own thing. When you're in your own space, you do you. But if you're in my space, this is what happens. So my old lady, my mom she was an interesting character. She was multilingual. She spoke a bunch of languages. How only she knows. Portuguese, English, Zulu, Swahili, Shona, Ndebele, Tswana, Sotho.
A lot of South African people are amazing with
Shangaan,
languages.
French,
So
because she traveled a lot. She worked for the airlines at that time. It's called Linhas Aéreas de Mozambique, LAM, which was their national flag carrier at the time. So yeah, she moved around a bit and she was well traveled. So she had a good international perspective. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's who she was.
And how many siblings did you grow up with in the house with her? How many kids did she have?
That's the 5 of us.
There were
Older
5 of you
brother.
guys.
I've got a twin sister, younger sister, and my younger brother.
Okay.
Late younger brother.
And so she ended up taking her life, right?
Yes.
Do you guys know why? And like, what was that? What happened on that day that it happened?
Yeah, so that day it was actually in Pretoria, and I happened to be on the scene because everyone else was wherever they were in the country and the world. So I happened to be in the house that day, and overdosed on whatever the hell she overdosed on. So I caught her on a dying bed, basically. So
You found her.
yeah. So the staff came and they were freaking out. So when I got there, it was just like, I'm freaking out and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And, you know, the medics on the way, and there was a note, you know, I read the note, and then I've spoken about this before, this specific part. So the note was taken by another gentleman. I mean, it's public knowledge, but I don't want to open that up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's there. People know who he is. And I don't know how everyone else feels about it or what they know, but I read the note and, you know, it's something that I've kept to myself. And I'm not gonna repeat it, you know, and it is what it is. There's certain bits of it that they've tried publishing because what upset me is this note was leaked, and the rest is history. We're here today and we move on, yeah. But yeah, that was the last time I saw the good old lady.
And I mean, because I know we've kind of started this, there's a lot of like really heavy topics, you know, from your childhood, and it just, I think in your life in general, you've been through.
No, we all have our stories.
You've
we all
been
have
through
our
some ups and downs for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
What was the best moment from your childhood? Like, because I mean, you must have seen some really awesome stuff as well. I mean, with the kind of people that you probably met and the places you got to go to, like, what was something that when you think back to your childhood, you go like, whoa, that was really cool or crazy?
A huge experience was meeting a lot of the people that became icons to a certain level in politics, and some of them even in business now, and growing up under their tutelage. I mean, you look at, you know, I always shy away from mentioning names because, you know, the next thing people pick up on this and that, and you know, I'm a hot potato. You know, I don't want to make other people hot potatoes. But, you know, seeing people go into positions of the judiciary, ministries, becoming multi-billion rand business people, and some of them I still see today, and seeing how they were hustling back then. And I remind them quickly, you know, of their dress code and how they used to behave. And literally, these guys used to drive us to school and babysit us. That's what it was. So, you know, those sorts of experiences always live quite strongly in my mind in the childhood times. You know, and a quick story, my eldest brother, and he's from a different mother, you know, so he joined us in Mozambique, you know, introduced him, and he's like, okay, that's your oldest brother. At that time, I was at an age where I didn't understand it. So it's like, okay, he's cool, whatever. I only started questioning, you know, when I was like 10, 11, 12. They're like, hold on, you know. So anyways, and then, you know, I love him to bits. So he comes through, and there was a certain level of information that was passed around when it came to the struggle. The struggle as it's called. What is known as Boys and Girl Scouts, or something called Young Pioneers. So, you know, the ANC at that time was basically grooming people and giving them information on what the struggle was. Everyone's on the same page. This is what we're fighting for. These are the role players. This is how we play a supporting role. And this is where we see ourselves getting to a point where we're free. So my brother comes down and he's a bit of a loose cannon. He's a wild child that turned out to be a wild adult. So nothing changed. So he rocks up and he's doing his thing. We're going to the school, the international school at that time. So at the school, there's a whole bunch of wealthy kids. There are diplomats out there, and then there's us, the only South African kids. So there's kids from Norway, Italy, Malawi, from everywhere, the US, and I mean these are kids of
politicians' sons.
Yeah, correct. And then and ambassadors,
like influential people. Yeah.
You know, so at this point, his mind is quite heavily tuned into what the struggle is, and you know, he's looking at his old man and also the people we're exposed to. So in the household, there was a lot of weapons that used to be hidden away for protection or whatever it is, because at any moment they come looking for you, whatever. And my old man and my mom didn't know that we found some of the weapons that they used to hide, that they didn't hide in great places. You know, AKs under the bed between the base and the mattress.
Okay, so you guys were really like set up
for
we were people to come in and invade kind of thing.
Yeah, straight up. Not that I noted it at the time, but to me it was like, what the...
This is just life,
You know what I'm saying? You know, revolvers, Makarovs, you know, guys were carrying man bags at that time as well. So they're always good to go, I guess. So my brother, the one day, decides to take this revolver to school, puts it in his bag, and in his mind, the enemy's at school, you know. So there was so much tension at that time. And his upbringing was in parts of Swaziland and South Africa. So he's at the coalface in South Africa of what the fight is about. So in his mind is like, yo, there's an enemy. This is what the enemy looks like. This is what the enemy sounds like, and that's where he's going. So he packs this revolver, goes to school, and in the middle of a class, he pulls it out and he's like, starts saying what he needs to say. He's on his rah-rah, fighting for freedom, blah, blah, blah. And everyone was like, what the hell is going on with this dude? Anyways, they managed to wrestle. Fortunately, he didn't know how to use it. I reckon that... So revolver, so you need to click it back before you fire. So he hadn't clicked it back. So fortunately... Nothing happened. So he's given like limited amount of time. If he's not out of the country, little homie's getting locked up. So, you know, it's going to be, because it was a huge diplomatic incident at the time. So he managed to get out and then only reconnected with him years later. You know, so it's those sorts of memories that, you know, when you look back, you know, in hindsight, it's like, okay, there was something going on. We were oblivious to it. It was actually quite reckless at some point from both sides. The people who were doing what they needed to do, and from our side as well.
How old are you then?
At that point, 5.
I mean, that's...
No, I remember it very well. And my father likes telling, he tells a story, and I mean, most people haven't been to our family functions, but at weddings or at birthdays, the one story he always tells is the time he almost shot me, by mistake, of course. I'm hoping it was by mistake.
By mistake.
I hope it was by mistake, old man. So he says the one evening he gets up from bed and he hears shuffling noises. And he thinks, the boys are here to get him. So he gets his AK, and now he's clearing the rooms.
This is your dad, right?
Yeah, this is my old man on his Rambo. So I'd gone to take a late night tinkle, and I couldn't at that time, I couldn't reach the light switches, so I'm missioning in the dark. So he says he comes around the corner, and we're staying in an apartment at that time. Comes around the corner, and he's locked and loaded, and he's about to open up, according to what he says. And fortunately at that time, I'm missioning in the dark, and he sees a little hand, and it's like much lower than what an adult's hand should be. And I'm like around the corner, just feeling my way through the room. And then he flicked the light switch on, and he saw my little punk ass there. And he's like,
I almost shot you.
I don't remember it. I was sleepwalking or whatever it is. I don't remember that particular incident, but that's a story that he loves telling. So
I love hearing like those
Thank
kind
you
of
very
stories,
much
though.
for not taking me out, dog. Else I wouldn't have been here.
Yeah, well, he might not have been here either, to be
Yeah.
honest. Well, he probably would have just taken you now.
Nah, they would have buried me where they buried everyone else. No, I'm joking. I don't know. That's a joke. Yeah. That's a joke. He can explain that for himself. So yeah, that's
What an interesting childhood, man.
it was. So, and then over a period of time, now the adult part, just to give you the two scenarios. Now you get to a point where now he's now in full government mode. He's now like everyone else. They no more in freedom fighting.
This is after apartheid.
Yeah, after.
Yeah.
No more in freedom
Obviously,
fighting.
yeah.
No more in terrorist mode, as they were called. They're now in government and starting to meet influential people as a kid, and then as a young adult, and even as an adult up until a few years ago, and met many interesting people because of him, which is great. I haven't told the story, but I mean, I've a few people that I've wanted to meet in my life. I think I have. There's some that are not around anymore, which is what it is, and there's a few that I'll meet on my own terms. So there was a time where we'd gone to Russia, and this was for his medical care. He'd been poisoned, and so anyways, I traveled with him, and I was looking after him.
Your dad he lived in Russia or Ukraine
In
at one
Russia.
point.
So there's a time where a lot of the
They were sent there to get trained
to train. So
for the military.
Yeah, military trained, understanding intelligence and that sort of thing. So
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
yeah. So that's they touched upon these places. So they moved around the UK. So they moved around in this in these circles. So not to make the story about him, but so anyway, so we get to Moscow, spending our time there, and he's getting his treatment, and basically his life saved. And on our way out, managed to meet the big man that side, President Putin. And it was actually interesting because I was always like, I don't get starstruck for a lot of individuals, and he was definitely one of them that I did. He's a proper worldly dude. So
I mean, he's probably the most dangerous person on earth, to an extent, or the most feared, I guess.
He's up there, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess he's definitely up there, one of, for sure. So for good and bad reasons, yeah. So anyways, they have their sidebar meeting. I get an opportunity to meet him, and it was actually strange because my old man's like, "Hey, by the way, I'm here with my son," and he does the intro, and obviously President Putin needs no introduction. So as I'm shaking his hand, I'm looking at him and looking at him, and I'm like, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. President," like anyone else would say. And he was looking at me, and I felt like he looked at me and he smiled, and his facial expression said to me, at least the way I took it, is like, yeah, I know it looks like it's a pleasure for you to meet me. that's.
He's like, I can see you're excited to meet me.
Yeah. I saw that look, and I'm like, you got me on this one. Yeah,
That's so funny.
So he's he's definitely got a presence, for sure. Definitely got a presence.
Yeah. And did he speak any English?
No, it was just good to meet you, and then
Just that's it.
and that was it. Yeah, that was it. We didn't discuss any global strategies. That'll be our next meeting. No, that wasn't the one.
The takeover.
yeah.
That's so interesting, man. I mean, yeah.
And then the late President Mugabe.
I'm actually from Zimbabwe.
No, I didn't know.
I was born in Orania.
Zimbabwe or Rhodesia? No, I'm just
Yeah, I think I'm after Rhodesia. I'm still
Just check.
pretty
We have to
young.
check these things. Okay, which part of Orania were you?
I stayed in an area called Milton Park.
Okay.
I've actually got a tattoo. I'll show you. Yeah.
Oh wow. I didn't know this, bro. Whoa. Easy. This is
It says made
is on record.
It says made in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Anyway.
So strangely enough,
Carry on, yeah.
I'll get to that, and the reason why I find that quite interesting, I didn't know this. This is something. When we moved from Mozambique, we moved to Zimbabwe, and we stayed in Harare. And the place we first stayed in was a place called Mabel Rain, and then what's this area? Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant.
I know Mount Pleasant, yeah.
Mount Pleasant. That was in the mid-'80s, yeah. So he was on a state visit. I'd never seen him, never met him in my life, and he happened to be in Pretoria at this point. And I was randomly there to see my father. I was living in Dubai at this time, and coincidentally, President Mugabe was part of a delegation. Must have been one of the SADC conferences, whatever. So he was actually meeting. They were having a meeting, and I insisted on meeting him. Like, yo, I've got to meet this old school legend of a president. So, walk into the room, and at this point he's in his late 80s, maybe even early 90s. And what took me aback is, as I was approaching to greet him, and it's just literally, they were sitting in there doing the flags in the back, the seats, like that sort of setting. He stands up. I'm like, what's going on with this old man? Stands up and greets, "Hey, how are you doing, young man?" And, very polished, very eloquent. Very good to meet you. This is, what an honor. Never thought I'd meet you, but great to meet you. And he kept, the term he used, I don't know what it means in the English language, but it sounded very aristocratic. He just kept saying, good show, good show. Anything that was said, good show. I'm like, okay, I need to, what's.
That's strange.
Yeah, very strange. But what placed me on the back foot, and, I like to think I'm a respecting person and a respectable person, especially when meeting people. And he didn't have to get up off his seat. Firstly, he is who he is. He's a head of state, long-standing. And secondly, he was an old man. You don't expect someone of his stature at his age to get up and
greet you
and greet in that manner. That's the only interaction I've had with him, the only experience, and that's what I take from it. It spoke volumes to me. Everything else is everything else. And yeah, that was quite the moment for me. Just
how do you feel about people like him, right? Because I guess it's someone like me, for example. Like, I have a podcast where I go out and I interview people a lot of the time, that some I agree with, some I disagree with, some I really like being around, some people that I'm like, yeah, it was cool to have a conversation, but I probably wouldn't want to be your friend, kind of thing. But in politics, it can be like that, I'm sure, where you're meeting people all the time that some of them you're very aligned with, and people that you really want to spend time with. And then there's some people where you're like, we're doing the same thing, but your ideas are maybe very dangerous, or I'm really not a fan 100%. Of your kind of vision for how things should be in your politics, right? Like someone like Mugabe, who on one hand, I think so many people loved him.
Yeah, he's a polarizing figure for sure.
On the other hand, being from Zimbabwe and seeing kind of like the way Zim collapsed, right? And the way things went and the way things are now.
Sure.
How do you feel about meeting people like this, right? And how do you go like, okay, I've got a relationship with this person, and I know with Mugabe you didn't, for example. But like you go, okay, this person is a very powerful figure, a politician, and he is potentially a very dangerous man to a lot of people, right? They have power to change people's lives for the better or worse. How do you go, okay, this man has caused a war, this has happened because of him, this has happened, he's committed these crimes. How do you go, let's just be friends, or let's have a chat, or
let's be cordial?
How do you kind of navigate that?
There's got to be a certain level of understanding, a certain level of maturity. You're absolutely correct. I meet a lot of people that I don't necessarily agree with. Some of them I speak to, and others I choose not to speak to because it's that dire. Growing up and being able to have lived in different spectrums of life, and having met different people from different walks of life, different races, ages, cultures, religions, different countries, you have to be circumspect at all times. Because what happens is, if you're this person, you ought to be this person at all times. You can't choose to be it when it suits you. When you have the ascendancy, you now, the guy with your chest out, balling your fists and like, yo, I'm good to go. And then at a time when you feel you're outnumbered, or you've been outmaneuvered, then now you're the mouse, and you're like, I didn't mean it. You just got to be that person. And I believe that's the zone that I sit in. Whatever it is, wherever it is, we'll have a conversation. There are people that have literally messed my life up. And I see them all the time. I've seen, just this past week, I've bumped into people I haven't seen in some time. And my thing is simple. There's certain battles that you fight on the front foot. There's certain battles where you have to tactically retreat. There's certain battles where we know we're fighting. You know who your enemy is. And there's certain, and I'm using enemy loosely. And there's certain people, also certain battles that you have to fight cleverly, you know. So at most times, meeting people that I may disagree with, have different views. I mean, in my own family, I've got people that I've got different, like strong views. Our views are completely detached from each other in its most extreme way. Does it mean that we hate each other? No. Does it mean that we're enemies? No. There are people that I will not speak to. If we are fighting, and I know we're fighting, that's just what it is. You know, we're not going to make friends. Where we meet up, there will be furniture moving, and it will go down. So, meeting President Mugabe, he's had his long run. What is it, 43 years or 45 years, whatever it is. He oversaw a country that was flourishing. The decisions that were made that caused it to and this is fact, you know,
just collapse.
To collapse, whether we like it or not. These are facts. And then meeting his end, you know, basically the coup that was soft coup that was done by the generals out on that side. He played his game. He made his decisions. The decisions that he made, once again, are decisions that some of them would have been right, some of them would have been wrong for the people of Zimbabwe. But when you look at the sum total, you look at the result, clearly the decisions that were made were not the right decisions. Because if people are suffering, if people have found themselves in a situation where, you know, they have to leave their countries to seek opportunities, it means something is wrong. So there's politics, there's personalities, and there's personal decisions. I feel like there's certain decisions that he made that were of a personal nature, and that's what caused the issue. It was less of interest for what the country of Zimbabwe was at the time. It was more of how he can fight back or hit back at his detractors in the political space, former colonial powers and masters and that sort of thing. So you look at the situation with myself and my father, we've got some different views, you know, and strong different views. We agree on a lot of stuff, but there's certain stuff that we don't agree on, you know, but we have to be able to sit and be cordial. We need to be able to sit around the table, because what I find, and this leads back to now the South African situation, there's guys that have wanted to chop my neck. I mean, I saw them, chop my head off. Saw them past few days in Durban, all sitting in a cozy meeting, and my thing is very simple. If anything's going to happen, let it happen. You know, we're not going to pussyfoot around things. We see what it is that you're doing. We understand what it is that you're trying to do, just like you see what I'm doing and what it is that I'm trying to do. But what I can tell you as myself, anything that I say, anything that I stand for, in my mind, is correct, and history will judge that. What is being spoken about in the South African dynamic politically, all around, not just from one side. You know, we're just speaking about stuff off the record before we got on this interview. And it's just interesting how before the elections, there's a whole bunch of noise. There's people up and down. There's all sorts of these policies and all these discussions, negotiations. It looked like there was going to be no government in this country. Now,
everything's running.
Quiet.
Yeah.
You know, and that begs the question, why and how? You cannot tell me we can have load shedding that's been happening for so many years, and then all of a sudden everything's cool. You know, so a lot of stuff I believe is stage managed. That's used for political point scoring. It's used to deal with politicians and detractors of whatever that idea or the ruling government or ruling party is, opposition parties, and what it is they're trying to do. And you know, it's unfortunate. So what we are saying is, let's leave the bullshit aside. Let's deal with the reality. We all know what needs to be done. Let's leave the politicking. Let's leave the insulting. Let's be respectable to each other. And there are too many pieces of the puzzle that some you can bring together and some you should not bring together because it's going to be disastrous. We just need to understand what works and what doesn't work. So, for an example, you have what would be the GNU, Government and National Unity, and then on the other side, this is now post-elections. That bloc is formed because of the reasons and they're aligning to certain ideas. And then there's what is being called now the black progressive parties or progressive black parties, however they've termed it. And that's basically parties that feel like, hey, we're not with what is being said here. We need to come together to do this. So the more we have this friction, the less we're going to develop in this country, the less we're going to get along. Everyone needs to come to middle ground. We need to put our differences aside. We need to agree that this is where we're trying to get to. The promised land, we all have our different ideas and routes to get there, but we all want to get there. If you speak to anybody, whether it's someone in a ruling party, opposition party, new party, we all want to see things working. We all want to see peace and prosperity. We all want to live in a safe and secure country. That's it. There's no script for that. There's no policy that we need to speak about. But how? The how is the issue. Down the road here, down the highway, in Parliament, where people talk the biggest load of shit.
It's all posturing. It's all just like
sugar, honey, ice, tea. We're done with that. We cannot be sitting in a position where we understand it's posturing, and I don't blame politicians. I don't blame people taking the podiums. I blame us as people that place those people there. We're the responsible ones. We cannot complain that so and so is doing this, so and so is not doing this. We're responsible. We cannot place these people time and time again and have the same complaints. But also it doesn't help us sitting back and not partaking in something as important as an election. I'm not interested. I'm tired. I've been disappointed. I've got no hope. The only way we're going to deal with the situation is by all of us coming together, all of us being on the same page and understanding that this is what we don't want. Let's get rid of it.
I think slowly we're getting there. Slowly. I mean, we've seen a little bit of progress in these elections. Something's changed at least,
I don't believe so.
You don't think so?
I think it's honest. Not I think. I know. Nothing's changed. It's just.
So do you think it's all a farce?
It's repackaged.
It's just going to collapse.
You 100%
to what it was before.
It will collapse.
Load shedding will come back. All this will be the same.
It will be a spectacular collapse. And I'll get to the load shedding part. But you cannot force people to work together that do not see things eye to eye. It doesn't work like that. We've brought warring factions of political parties together in hope of having this unity, when we know within themselves they're not unified. Forget about the actual GNU as it stands, but the actual parties themselves. There's this infighting happening within the parties on which direction to go. We're looking over the recent developments of the past week. We've seen a certain political party that is displaying this, for whatever reason. So there's a lot of turmoil happening within the certain said political parties. We're taking that turmoil, we're bringing it together with other parties that have their own dynamics with internal strife, and we're trying to make these people work together. It's not going to work.
Do you think South Africans can ever work together? Like, do you think there's a future where people from different races, different cultures, different backgrounds work together?
100%,
right?
yes,
and
sir.
The reason I'm saying this is because I went to Orania recently, and
I saw that.
The US Stridham, who is the CEO, I guess they call him, of Orania, said that he doesn't believe that, and of course he would probably say this, but he doesn't believe that the Zulu people, white people, the Khoisan, all these, he said there's way too many different cultures and backgrounds and histories and lineages in South Africa for the country to ever operate as one. Right? I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think people can always work together. We just look for reasons to divide ourselves. But do you think it is possible for one day there to be a government that is cohesive, a people that is cohesive, And how do we get there?
I do believe that we can work together. I think for the major part, we are working together. If you look at our society in general, I mean, it's integrated quite fantastically. Do we have issues? Yes. So I always speak about the dangers to us not working together, and I put it in the order of chronologically 3 to 1. The third one being racism, right? So the whole racism issue in our country that's existed, that's been part of what our colonial past was, and that story, and more. There's a black-white issue. We've seen Indian black issues in certain parts of the country, like the KwaZulu-Natal province. There's certain issues of racism that have to be dealt with. It's unfortunate that we're still having these conversations in this day and age, but it's there, and we need to acknowledge that it's there, unfortunately. Is it everyone? No, it's not everyone. It's a certain number of people that I honestly believe is on the lower number of the scale than the higher number. So it's a fixable problem. And all these issues stem from upbringing, as we know. So you don't just rock up and start disrespecting people based on the color of their skin. No, it's something that you've been brought up in, which speaks to where you're from. Those issues need to be dealt with. Number 2 would be tribalism. And I think that's what the CEO of Orania would be speaking about. And tribalism in South Africa speaks to the black on black issue. So that is Zulus, Xhosas, Vendas, Tswanas, the different parts of the country, how we exist in these different parts of the countries, how we feel that these places are ours and no one else's. You're welcome to come.
It's a weird mindset.
But I mean, that's what the world has been. It's not just South Africa. I mean,
it's everywhere.
You're seeing what's happening in different parts of the world. It's it's rearing its ugly head. So that's human nature. But it's something that needs to be dealt with and overcome. We have to get along. Amongst black people, I definitely place the issue of black on black problems. I'll definitely, like I said, I've got it at number 2, racism at number 3, and how that fits into how our country is structured, how our economy has become structured. We need to get, as black people, we need to get our story straight before we start going out there and trying to sort other people's problems out. And then number 1 would be the xenophobia issue. So now it is the hate for foreigners, or the dislike. So hate is a strong word. The dislike for foreigners. Okay, this is our country. You're not welcome here because you're not from here. I think that's short-sighted. That's definitely something that shouldn't happen. We live in a very integrated world. The issues of immigration, 100%. If your paperwork is not in order, you shouldn't be here. That's a no-brainer.
That's anywhere.
That's anywhere in the world. When we travel, it's wherever in the world I am, I make sure my green mamba is on me, just in case I get my passport.
Your green mamba.
The green mamba.
I know what you're doing.
Yeah. Sorry, the green mamba is a passport.
You mentioned it at the beginning.
Yeah. So and the reason for that is, at any point, if you're stopped at a restaurant, at a club, at a museum, at a railway, an underground terminal for the railway station, you need to be able to say, this is my passport, this is my whatever it is, visa, my work visa, my visit visa, my work permit, whatever it is that whatever reason you're there for, it is that you're there for. And it's not even a discussion. Sorry, sir, who are you? I'm so-and-so. Can we see some identification here? Okay, cool. Have a nice day. That's a no-brainer. And we expect that in South Africa as well. If you do not have the requisite documentation, you should not be here. That's not xenophobic. That is abiding by the law. Just like when we go into everyone else's country, when we travel to into other African states, other European states, Asian, we make sure we have the right documents.
Yeah, of course.
So I think, and I rate that at number 1, because if you look at what's happening amongst our communities, rural townships, it's a ticking time bomb. Not because I'm saying it, we've seen it. The first skirmishes were, let's call it 2008, that started becoming prevalent, was into 2008. Then it became progressively worse. I think 2013, 2014, and then we're here now. I mean, it's starting to play out in the arts space, and we're seeing what's happening now with the beauty pageants and stuff. So we have these things happening all the time. But that being said, I firmly believe that we can work together. We need to be able to learn from each other. So I've never been to Orania. You've had the good fortune of going to check it out, because I like commenting on things that I've seen or I've experienced. You know, it's easy to talk about places or things that we haven't experienced and have an opinion on it. You know, you can, because you've been there and you've interacted and you've walked the ground, and you can be like, okay, this is what I saw, this is how I felt, blah blah blah. But this is what I will say in response to who you met, what was said, and your viewpoint on it. First time in my life I went to the Voortrekker Monument, which is in Pretoria, was about 2 years ago. Driven past that monument a gazillion times. And that day I was in between meetings and I'm like, hey, hold on one second. Why haven't I been in this building? You know? Went in, and it happened to be a quiet day. I forget the gentleman's name that was there. He was a tour guide, and I actually need to go back to see him. He did me a solid. He proper took me through I feel like he went beyond the call of duty. You know, I think he was trying to convert me to become an Afrikaner. I don't know what was going on. But no, he proper spent time with me, and he took me through, you know, there's up the stairs there's that auditorium type section. I'm not sure if you've been, you need to check it out. It's proper, you know, and people say, but what were you doing there? That is the bastion of what colonialism was, and apartheid and all of that. And I'm like, guys, it's history, it's a monument. Go check what it's about. Go learn why there's a certain viewpoint, how people got here, because we all got here somehow. You know, that goes to all of us. You know, so let's understand that and let's learn from that. So without being too long-winded, the point I'm trying to get to is we need to learn from each other. So that visit to the monument, you know, we've all learned history and we've come across this. We've learned in school, but, you know, just walking through that room, and it's like the history, you know, it's 4 walls, and it starts off with these murals on the wall, like carved in, and it takes you through the time of the interaction with the Afrikaners and the Shangans and then the Zulus, and how they migrated to different parts of the country, how they ended up in the Free State, you know, on the way to Mozambique or wherever it is that they were going. And when you look at the map of South Africa, you look at how they've settled in the country, you get to understand how it happened, why they think that way, and why they're protective of their culture. And it's something that you have to respect. You can't want to destroy it. I think it's short-sighted to want to destroy it, because if you look at where we're at in our country today, a lot of what has been placed here has been thanks to the hard work that was put in by them. Whether we like them or not, whether they suppressed us or not, a lot of the buildings that current government sits in today, that the offices that they walk into were built by the very same guys that they're trying to wipe out from history.
But I think the problem these days
unfortunate.
Is people try to almost dehumanize each other, right? If you're coming from a different background. In South Africa, I think I experienced this quite a lot, where it's like, as say like a white guy that grew up in like a relatively privileged area, you might see someone do something, or like say you go to school, right, and there's kids from other areas there. You guys come from such different backgrounds that I think it's almost just a lot of the time people find it hard to relate to each other, right? Because you can't understand that perspective of where they're coming from.
True.
And someone like me who's grown up, like my cousin is black. He was adopted. He was actually my auntie's housekeeper's son.
Okay.
And we had like the best relationship growing up since we were like 2 years old, right? So I understand his perspective and where he comes from and the struggles that he went through, right? Being a black kid that grew up in a very impoverished area, and also through the work I've done in the Cape Flats. Like I go into the Cape Flats and I've seen the kids there and the way people live there and the struggles they go through, right? So instead of seeing just like you're walking down the street, like say you're this privileged person, you come from a very sheltered background, you don't see like a street cleaner, like say like a colored street cleaner and go, that's just a colored street cleaner. When I look at them now, I go like, that person probably comes from the Cape Flats. They've gone through so much in their life. You know, you don't know where their parents were, what their parents went through. A lot of their parents probably, come from a background of addiction and displacement from the government. And, you know, all these things. So it's like, I feel like we're very quick to dehumanize each other and
Most
just go,
definitely.
oh, that's just him from whatever area. You know what I mean? Oh, he's Afrikaans guy. Like,
Place
he probably
him in a
just
box,
grew up on a farm somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of stereotype people and place them in a box where, since I've started going into these areas, I've really started to understand like
Major respect for that.
the history and where people come from and how they got to these places and what being Afrikaans means, or what being a colored person means, or what being a Zulu or a Xhosa person means, you know? I feel like that is a huge step South Africans need to take, is just truly understanding, like, when your housekeeper comes to do work in the morning, where she's coming from, or where the guy that's coming to do the landscaping in your yard, the big Afrikaans guy, you know, like, where he comes from. What is his story? He's not just some Afrikaans guy that grew up on a farm, you know. It's like with our athletes is the perfect example. You see Siya Kolisi, the most inspirational, iconic figure in South Africa probably at the moment, right? Comes from a township. Comes from some area that you've probably never even heard of.
Correct.
Right? You look at Ibn Etzebeth. It's massive Afrikaans guy. You probably just look at him and just go, that's just another Afrikaans guy, you know what I mean?
The memes coming out of the UFC have been killing me. It's like, who the hell
and
is
drinkers,
this?
but you see these guys, and like, to a lot of people, like I see in America the way they talk about drinkers. They go, oh, he's this Afrikaans guy, he's got a weird name. And like, I saw a comment about him recently when Izzy hit him with a punch, and the guy was like, oh yeah, that's for apartheid or something. You know what I mean? Like, people look at things so like one-dimensional. Oh, he's Afrikaans. He's just like every other Afrikaans guy. He's Zulu. He's like just like every other Zulu guy. People need to stop like holding things, looking at one thing as one thing. You need to look at people as people and really understand where they come from and their backstories. Sorry, I just went on a little rant.
No. It's super key, because that is the only way we're going to overcome this. What you've said is exactly the only way we're going to overcome this. I mean, he's not here at the moment, but I mean, Jared. I'm mentioning his name. He's going to be pissed off, but
I'll bleep it. It's fine.
No, that's fine. That's cool. He's cool with it. But that is a brother of mine, like proper. One of the closest people I have to me. You know, people may not expect it for whatever, but we've been through the fire for some time, for a long time together. You know, so he's super key. Someone that I hold in high regards and I respect dearly. You know, and he's from a completely different background. And we've had these discussions, and it's one of those things where we get to understand. It's like, for example, so one of the times where there was one of the huge xenophobic flare-ups, we were in Melrose, Johannesburg. We're just had something to eat at places called the one of the Shisanyama franchises. So it's it's on the other side of Corlett Drive, opposite Melrose Arch. So as we walk out, and literally when we're having dinner, we're getting these updates on our phones, and it's happening in Alexandra, which is not township, which is not too far from there. So we're having the conversation, and he's concerned, and he's like, hey, what's going on? And he's trying to understand what the situation is. And there comes a gentleman, happens to be a Mozambican gentleman. He's like, hey, can you please help me? I've been attacked. And at this point, it's like, hey, what are you talking about? Because, you know, I just thought it was someone trying to hustle, and I'm like, hey, mate, don't try to hustle me. What are you talking about? Then he took his...
Don't hustle a hustler.
Yeah, he took his hoodie off, and his elbow, and with the bones just like literally sticking out of his... We're like, what's going on? He's like, no, he was just attacked, and he doesn't know what to do. And you can see his energy starting to get depleted. And it's like, bro, you need to get some help, you know. And then someone had offered him a ride to get him to hospital, but he didn't have money. So whatever we had on us, we're like, bro, here you go. Sort yourself out. So when we're having a conversation at that time, that was like 2014 maybe, 2013, 14. He's like, but how is this happening? Why is this happening? As much as there's issues, but why are people getting attacked? And it's questions that we all ask, but he was asking me at this point. And I said, you need to understand the dynamic of, and it's linking into what you just said, which was not a rant, which was key. We're living in a very traumatic society. It's been traumatized by the history of the country. It's been traumatized by the freedoms of the country. Meaning, there was, people call it the dream deferred. There was a time where everyone was subjugated because of the racial dynamic and people that were more privileged and whatever it is. Post-94, you have the new government. It's a new time. It's freedom. But people feel equally, at some points, more let down by the new government than what was the older government. And then people have certain commentary around that. So now what happens is people are like, hey, you are our people. You are representing us. We put you there to represent us. But why isn't there a change in our lives? There's an old saying that goes, I'm just trying to recall it now. The collective intelligence of a people is greater than that of its leadership. Meaning, as much as leaders are put into place and they try and bamboozle us and mislead us, not all of them, but a lot of them in this case, people will always remind you what the reality is, just based on their collective and their collective experiences. So as an example, if you look at people revolting and attacking foreigners, legal or illegal, in a sense, what they're telling government is, government, we're not happy with your immigration laws. That's all they're saying. They're doing it in this messed up manner, but that's basically what they're saying. And that doesn't just go for South Africa. You look at what's happening in the UK.
It's happening in America.
It happens in the US.
It happens
so
everywhere.
The collective intelligence, people are saying, okay, this is how we feel. This is what we need done. You guys are not doing it, so we're going to take this fight. We're going to take this fight up and we're going to take it into our own hands. So the collective intelligence of a people is greater than that of its leadership. And that's something that we can never, ever, ever forget. Because at any point, when the people revolt, that's basically them saying,
we're unhappy with something.
Yeah, that's all it is. And now what happens in South Africa is, there's places in the world where people will protest. And, it'll be peaceful, placards, they'll say their piece, they'll have the loud hailers, there might be one or two skirmishes, a little tear gas, one or two people get arrested. In South Africa, it's going to be violent. Because
I've been in the middle of it a lot of times as well.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's because that's all people know. Guys, you're not listening to us when we speak, when we march, we hand over memorandums.
So we're going to war.
Yeah, let's burn something. Let's burn a few cars. Okay, there's a library, there's a hospital. Never mind later when the cops kick us in our backsides, we'll need to come back to the same hospital that won't be here. But people don't think that far,
But people also look at that and go, oh, they're just toying, or they're just rioting.
No,
but you don't look at the history of how they ended up there and why they're doing it.
And as you said, you have your family member that doesn't look like you, that doesn't have the same background as you, but he's your brother. You look at the places that you've been to. People wherever in the country you live, you jump into your vehicle, you drive in any direction. 20 minutes is too far. You will come across a township that's in squalor or an informal settlement. So you don't need to go read about it, and just take a drive through and see what's happening, and you'll definitely change your mind on it.
But I encourage you to stop and talk to them as well.
You have to.
Because it's mind blowing to me. And I say this so often, but whenever I speak to people, I often don't explain things, because I just expect them to know as well. I expect when someone sees a homeless guy struggling on the side of the road to stop and actually figure out what's going on, or an informal settlement. You go I live in one of the most beautiful cities on earth.
Yeah.
And in the middle, there's just people living on the streets everywhere.
It's
right.
strange.
You would think people would be interested to go how does that happen? Let me go talk to these people. Where do they come from? You know what I mean? Because I see in Sea Point, it's such a big thing where everyone wants to get rid of the homeless people. But it's just where do you put them?
Yeah.
Why are you speaking about getting rid of them? Speak about the solutions so that they're not there in the
That
first
is the
place.
key.
Because otherwise they're just going to come back.
Right now, most people in our spectacular government do not have solutions. It's all theory, and that is a problem. So when you look back at it, and we're speaking about the Orania thing, I always say to people look at me, I say, learn from the people in Orania. It's easy to say, this, and they're promoting segregation, and there's certain viewpoints, and we've listened to the interviews, and we they frame it quite nicely that leaves limited gray area, on the currency they're using there, the flag that they flying and that sort of thing. Because basically the currency thing is, hey, guys, we don't want people to get involved in criminality. It's basically like making money digital and, paperless and all that sort of thing. So, it's less people getting robbed or shaken down. Okay, it makes sense, we get it, but you can't now try and promote your own currency as a currency that is rivaling what is a sovereign currency, which is the rand.
So their currency is actually a coupon.
Yeah, no, 100%. And what I'm saying is, so I'm saying it leaves limited gray area, But the whole thing is, you have these people here, they're promoting an independent state based on a flag, based on a currency, based on ideology. So that's where I'm coming from. So, and then it's also creating their own borders. If you are not, your ideology needs to be right. You need to be within the Afrikaner
tradition.
system,
Yeah, I mean, to live there, you have to meet certain requirements.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, like be an Afrikaans, Calvinist Christian, I think, as well.
Exactly.
White.
The truth is, who the hell wants to go to Orania? You know what I'm saying? You're there, you're doing your thing. No disrespect to them, but I mean, they've chosen a very hard place to set up, and guarantee they'll turn it around. This is what
they've done a good job.
This is what Afrikaners do.
Yeah.
They win.
They build as well.
That's just what it is, whether you like it or not. And the ethos is amazing. I've listened to some of the interviews and some of the viewpoints. If you take away from racializing it, and they need to do a lot of work to do that.
I mean, if you just take away the racial element, it's an amazing thing.
It's an amazing thing. If they just said, guys, this is where we at, this is what we're doing, cool. Ain't no one trying to drive all the way out there and live in those conditions, extreme conditions.
Yeah.
Definitely no black people. No black people trying to go out there, flip and toil the land and flip and build solar this and make off the grid and no one's trying, you know what I'm saying? If you just did what you needed to do and say, hey, guys, this is what we are, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, you're more than welcome. If people would rather drive to the beachfront in Durban or to Cape Town, they're not trying to go to Orania. So if they just switch it up a bit, I can guarantee you, Orania will be a blueprint for what needs to be done in this country, like has been done. And my final point on that, and I know we've been laboring, but it's important to speak about these things, is instead of people renaming streets, instead of people tearing down statues and burning down what were former...
Make new ones.
Bro, let's build new cities. Name them whatever the hell we want to name them. That's the way it works.
Musi said the same thing.
That's just what it was. If you look at our recent history, the last time a new city was built was in the late 70s. Early 80s was the last parts of a city being built. We have not built a new city in South Africa in all these years. Let's bear in mind, there's been whole cities, and if not whole countries, that have come up in the past 25 years. Some of us have lived in these countries. Some of us have visited these countries. Yeah. What's our excuse? 100%. Enough land. And then they're doing it the Orania style. Barren, no water. Barren land, no water. You know what I'm saying? So we've got no excuses. So that's what I say when that's what I mean when I say we need to change our outlook and we need to look to the future. What's happened. We note it. We're not going to forget about it.
100%.
We cannot.
Don't forget, but move forward.
It can't be part of a political campaign in 2024.
Yeah.
Cannot be.
And so you've started your own political party, right? Called All Game Changers.
AGC, baby.
AGC. So where does the name All Game Changers from?
That is, once again, just breaking away from the mold of what traditional politics looks like, sounds like, feels like.
Because it does. It seems very different.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
a different
people are like, you guys, what do you mean all game changers? We're not playing games.
It sounds almost like it's like a fitness documentary. It's like the game changers. Let's go.
AGC. So basically, we've taken a snapshot of what our country is, what it looks like, what we want it to look like. We want to be an all-inclusive organization. We're not limiting anyone. We're not saying you're not welcome, this person's not welcome, because guys, if you want to see change in this country, this is a platform for you.
We're all going to do it, yeah.
Yeah, so the all speaks to society at large. That's everybody. Game, in two senses, means the game needs to change, which is where we're at, the political game, our economic game, our social economic game in the country, socio-economic game and our social standing. And then game also meaning, we game to do it, so we're able to do it, we want to do it, we have an interest in doing it. And then changing everything that we do, the way we speak to each other, the level of respect, meaning changing the way our country looks. One of the most uninspiring things to do is to walk into most, if not all, government buildings. Get in there, it's the same old brown carpets, security gate with a turnstile. You're filling in some form and you fake
There's no
name.
magic to
There's
it.
no magic.
It's not like the White House.
No,
You know what
I'm saying? And it's not modern.
No.
It's not future. So we are fighting about history. We're living in. We're operating in these buildings that our predecessors that we hate so much built. Come on, guys. You know what I'm saying? Let's repurpose them if we need to. Let's build new structures. So let's change what government looks like.
Yeah.
Let's make it fresh. Let's make it
So,
futuristic.
that's the goal, is just to be different, fresh.
To be different. We have to
bring
be
a new
different. The only
perspective.
way we're going to change this country is by being different. And let's not be afraid to be different.
Do you think that, given obviously your family's history and your father's very controversial presidency, and do you think that having the name Zuma has held you back in politics? Or do you think that it's the only reason you're in politics and the reason you're in the position you're in?
Both. It's a gift and the curse, Gift being, it's there. There is a name that's been built by my father and his legacy of what he's done in his time. It's not just locally, it's a global name that's been built. He's put it on the map, good or bad, that's open to opinion. But he's played the game and he's done his thing. There's certain places where it's welcomed, it opens doors, you're able to sit down with people just based on the lineage, based on the proximity. That's 100%. I'm not going to shy away from that. But then there's places where it's like, oh, shit, we're not dealing with this guy because of the negative connotations that would be linked to the name and the history. And it's the controversy, true or not, but it's there. The controversy that's been spoken about and that's been built over a period of time. So there are people that will shy away. They'll be like, hey, hot potato, hey, we don't want to fly too close to the fire, or whatever it was, too close to the sun. As an example, you look at the now I'm speaking about myself, forget about, someone else would be linking up to do anything. Just from my side, the downsides for what would be, and it's just purely from the way the world has been structured by the powers that be, politically exposed persons or person of interest. There's certain things that I can't do because of me being related to my father. Besides me stepping into the political arena, just being a family member, being a son. There's certain questions when it comes to anything from opening bank accounts to certain profiles that are put into place. Now when you travel, that's one of the questions in a lot of places that they ask. Family members, when you're applying for visas, of course. Anyone that's been, you need to give a breakdown of what your parents did, professional-wise, and that comes up and that changes the dynamic. So the dynamic could be, this is awesome, welcome.
It's either going to be amazing or it's going to be probably like...
There's no middle ground.
Yeah, there's no way.
There's no middle, like, nah, don't worry about it, Chief, just carry on.
Like, it's never going to not be a factor. It's always going to be a factor, yeah.
Correct. So it's either a proper hell yeah, let's go, or hell no. There's no middle ground. Yeah. So yeah, that's.
And you mentioned your bank account, right? So I did see that on Penwell's podcast. Yeah. I watched a little bit of that the other day. It started with you guys talking about the fact that you don't have a bank account.
Yeah.
right? Is that still the case?
That's still the case.
So, if I'm not mistaken, right, you don't have a bank account because of the links to the
State capture.
the
blah,
state
blah.
capture and the scandal with the Guptas, right?
Correct.
When did that all happen? When did all of that come to light?
The beginnings of it were 2015. Yeah, 2015. So by December 2015, 18th of December, the first notification came through. Like, nah, no more bank account for you, dog. You out of here. And then there was a knock-on effect, a ripple effect from there. I mean, that was bank accounts, insurance companies. It was a whole host of things. And it's difficult to operate in that manner. But anyways, that's water under the bridge. We're here.
Yeah. So, I mean, also, I think a lot of people that are watching might not know what state capture is.
Yeah.
I've always heard the words, but I've never really understood it. So I'll just read a brief description.
Cool.
So what is state capture? In South Africa, it's not only just in South Africa as well, but in South Africa, state capture refers to the systematic corruption where private interests, particularly with the Gupta family, used their close relationship with the then President Jacob Zuma to influence government decisions, appointments, and policies for their own benefit. And then it says the Guptas allegedly controlled key state institutions, secured lucrative contracts, and influenced the appointment of ministers, leading to widespread corruption and the weakening of democratic institutions. The scandal, which came to light during Zuma's presidency, caused significant political and economic damage to South Africa, right? So you were kind of caught up in the middle of all of this, and you were accused. It said here that the state capture allegations against you were that it says Duduzane was accused of playing a central role in the state capture scandal, facilitating the Guptas' access to key government officials and resources, right?
That's what is alleged, yes. That's allegations.
Yeah, so these are obviously all allegations.
Sure.
And there was a lot of other allegations.
Sure.
And this is obviously not just you as well. There was like hundreds of people, if not thousands, linked to all of this. So if you could just give us some context as to what happened, what your relationship looked like with them, and what's happened since then, since this kind of all came to light.
Right, so I'll be brief with that one. Great relationship with the Gupta family at the time. Business-wise, I learned a whole of a lot from them. Astute, they were super sharp. They introduced me to the broader business globally. So the international part of my business dealings is thanks to them. Over a period of time, it went the way it did, and I've last had interaction or discussions with them 2019. So that relationship doesn't exist any longer. On my own, doing my own thing. That met its natural end. And then when it comes to the state capture allegations, there's a lot of stuff that was alleged. A whole host of stuff. And I've been smacked with cases ranging from racketeering to corruption, to money laundering, to fraud. I've been charged with everything under the sun, except for now, at least the last one. I mean, I've been charged with murder, as per a culpable homicide case, manslaughter, whatever it is.
It was from a car accident.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
The only thing that I believe I haven't been charged with is any sexual grievances. That's the last remaining one, and I'm just waiting for something to pop up somewhere. So, not that it'll be true, but I mean, fabricated, of course, just like everything else. So I've stood the test of time. I've stood the scrutiny. I've stood up to it. I've conformed with what I was asked to conform with, and till this day, no charges. I've not been found guilty of a single crime, and will never be found guilty of a crime. I was straight down the middle, did my business stuff, and got caught up in this interesting dynamic that they call state capture. And just to delve into that slightly, is as per the description, influence, government, contracts, and so on. Now, if you look at the way the system works globally, and most definitely in South Africa, lobbying is a real thing. And for the record, and I've stated this plenty times, and I'm stating it one more time,
And I'm sure you'll do it in the future.
Yeah, sure. Up until this point, I have not been part of any government business. I have not had any government contracts. I haven't been part of any tender process, any tender awarding of any tenders. And unfortunately, it's what's been painted out there is that I've been this tenderpreneur, which is not the case. Everything I've done has been private business. The successes, the misses have been all in the private sector.
So are people saying like a lot of your wealth is coming from government contracts?
Yes,
that's I'm sure what they're saying is they're saying you're getting them because of your ties to government and family.
100%.
Yeah.
That's correct. Which is the furthest thing from the truth. I haven't done any government business. I'm glad I didn't do any government business. So the discussion around state capture, the only thing that's happened is I've managed to capture the imagination of the state. See what I did right there? So I'm just messing around. If we want to deal with issues of corruption in this country, we have to be open about it, we have to be realistic, and we have to be honest. The whole state capture thing was a dishonest exercise. Do we need to get to the bottom of allegations? 100%, and myself included. If I'm being alleged of wrongdoing, throw me into that fire like you have, and you'll get the truth out of it. Now, if we're trying to get to the bottom of the root causes, because this was specifically focused on ourselves in relation to the people around us that are whatever government officials that they speak about, and then my father as a president at the time. Over a period of, what was it, they call it 2011, 2012, till that time, 2018, 2019, whatever. There's no way you're going to get to the bottom of the rot that exists in this country of corruption without going back many years.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. I could come here and say, okay, I'm focusing on Josh and his family and his connections.
No, it's a generational thing.
It's a generational thing, and they limited it. The scope should have been broadened completely, because the story of government contracts boils down to this. You have a government opportunity, which is the contract, whatever the contract is. You have government officials, and then you have private players. These two always come together. The reason the tenders are put out is they're looking for suitors to come and implement whatever it is that they're asking to implement, which are always private companies. So, in a sense, if you remove this whole state capture thing and you just speak to the issues that are for what they are, then you're basically saying the whole state has been captured from day one. Because if you look at people that have benefited from state-owned enterprises, government departments, it's private companies. They're companies that have existed, that have made trillions of rands in this country. Why are we not speaking about this? You know, they're people that lobby opportunities. Lobbying is a real thing, whether we like it or not. That's it. This is us. These are the private companies that exist, local or international. They've got investment. They want to come and do what they need to do, create jobs, create opportunities, and make government collect their taxes. So, you know, tax base grows, middle class grows, and we get to a point where we don't have these major issues in our country. So if we're going to talk about state capture, we're going to talk about corruption, the conversation needs to be opened up. And you'll find that after all is said and done, there are a whole lot of guilty parties, I'm definitely not one of them, that have been operating purely based on what we're being alleged on. And you will find that most people that have promoted and have spoken about this are actually part of that very system of patronage that they claim that I've been a part of. Do I say anything wrong with private sector and government coming together to do business? And guys, make your money, do your thing. Just don't steal from the people. You know, leave something on the table for the benefit of the people. You can't come in.
That's something that annoys me so much as well. Is a lot of people in power now are people that come from a lot of the areas that we talked about just now. You know, the townships, the Cape Flats. A lot of these places, the people have nothing. And the people in power right now know that. And they still don't care.
They're from there.
They're from there.
Yes.
They know how people are living there, and they do not give a shit.
Here's one better. A lot of people sitting in the positions of power come from a lot of these places. And it's smart. There's a lot of smart guys, and there's also a lot of chance takers. Let's just be honest. But you find by the time people get to a position where they're supposed to be doing things. Their lived experience will dictate their outlook on what the duties that they need to perform. As an example, if you are someone that has grown up in a rural area, in a township, in a squatter camp, or informal settlement, or whatever the term is, and you've grown up, this is a generational thing, as you mentioned earlier on. You've grown up in a situation where you're playing soccer on broken bottles on the riverbed with.
People are wrapping plastic bags up
to make these balls.
To make balls.
Yeah.
It's like,
so now you've grown up in the conditions where the river smells like sewer because there's no sewer pump station that's filtering the.
No, there's no toilets.
There's no guys are.
There's no toilets.
Literally
They're just
doing their
buckets
thing.
and throwing it.
Correct, and we've been there. We've been in this, on these cleanup campaigns. We've seen it. There's places where some of the people we know still live in these conditions. So we exposed to these things, and it's not on. So you have someone that comes from those conditions. He grows up or she grows up in these conditions. It gets to a point where now they're sitting as part of the powers that be in a mayorship, in a director general position, in a ministerial position, whatever it is. Now, if you tell them we have litter on the beach, we need to be hosting beach soccer tournaments or surfing tournaments, they're not interested. They're like, hold on one second. What do you mean litter? It's a few pieces of paper. Go see where I'm coming from. That's normal. What do you mean litter? So the person comes into this position and doesn't understand that you are at the ocean front. I'm just using this as an example. You're at the ocean front. You're trying to deal with the issues of pollution filtering down the river onto the beaches. In your mind, you don't see anything wrong with it because you're used to those conditions. To the person that's traveled, that's been to Copacabana, that's been to the south of France, that's been to the Gold Coast, in whatever it is, places where this is not normal, we'll say, guys, what's going on? And then to the people, they'll be like, no, it's just a few pieces of paper. Okay, it smells like poo. It's not even that bad. You should go upstream where I'm from. So we are trying to deal with the situation. This is politics in a nutshell. We're trying to deal with the situation at the end of it and not dealing with it upstream. The problem is upstream. By the time you get this issue down by the ocean front, 50, 100 kilometers up is where the issue is. You're not dealing with that. There's
100%.
Everyone living on the golf courses, living on the riverside
Stop it at the
estates.
source.
Yeah, you got to stop it at the source. And how does that work? It's a mindset thing. And that's why we're saying the mindset of where our people are, and I don't want to go back into politics too much, but the mindset of the way our people, our leaders are thinking. They're not thinking about the upstream. They don't care about the upstream problem. And this is where we need to be focusing, hence the change.
And I mean, just to go back to the Guptas for a second. So like we were talking about earlier, right? And the Guptas, I don't know too much about them. I always hear about them, and to me, they're almost like these mythical creatures, kind of in a way, because like in South Africa, I feel like everyone's heard about them. I never really see them speak.
So you just put them on the same category as a Loch Ness monster.
No, but I'm joking.
No, I'm joking.
But you know what I mean? They're these figures that everyone has always heard about in South Africa growing up, right? And like I said, I haven't looked into them too much, but they've got also a huge amount of controversies and scandals against them, and the whole thing with Eskom, and people have, and I don't know what's been proven or not, right? But like we were speaking about dealing with people that you don't necessarily like, or you do like, or you have different opinions on them, right? How do you feel about like the state capture and the other things they've been accused of? Do you think any of it's true? Do you think it's all hearsay? Yeah.
So from my side, there's definitely been a lot of hearsay from my experiences. But once again, I can only speak about things that I'm aware of, things that I've been privy to, things that I've been exposed to. So if there's anything else that's happened behind the scenes that I'm not aware of, I'm not aware of. I was not there. I was not part of anything. But, everyone will answer for themselves when the time comes. I've definitely answered for myself. I always like placing this scenario. If you take high net worth individuals in this country, from whichever sector, mining, banking, agriculture, farming, whatever, construction, if you take the top performing companies and you take the people that run those companies, and you open them up to scrutiny, I can guarantee you the Guptas are going to look like child's play. Why? There are a lot of people that have flourished off the South African system based on what is being spoken about, state capture. That is having proximity to people in power, government as well as private sector. Now, the question that one has to ask is, if it's good for one person, how can it not be good for the other person? That's just as simple as it is. I'm not accepting or denying any allegations or anything. All I'm saying is, if we're going to be fair and if we're going to deal with these issues, let's take the Guptas, let's place them there. Let's take me. You can place me there as well.
But you're saying everyone else must be looked at.
That's the only way you're going to get to the bottom of it, because we can do this all day. It happened with the Bosasa guys. Gavin Watson and co. Same thing happened. In another few years, there'll be another crew, another bunch of people. Okay,
it'll just never end.
It'll never end. We've got these people, and if you're guilty for what you're being accused of, then jail is your name. Cool.
Or then it shouldn't end. Yeah,
it shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? But let it be so. There's facts on the table. Let's go to court. Let's sort it out. You've been found guilty. Have a nice day. But it can't be a situation where you're just alleging. I'm speaking for myself.
Open-endedly forever.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
It's 10 years later. I can tell you some of the guys that you interview from Polsmo, some of the guys that you've gone into Mitchell's Plain, I guarantee you, if you ask them if they have a bank account, they're still getting debited every month. They've been convicted for whatever it is they've been convicted for. And they've owned up to these crimes. They've lived the hard life. They're hardened criminals. But I guarantee you, they've got bank accounts. I don't. Not spend a day in jail. Will not spend a day in jail. 10 years later, charges dropped, allegations no more. They just pop up as this open-ended scarecrow. Remember him? Bro, that's not cool. It's not fair. I've also got my rights. We want to talk about democratic country and constitutional rights. I've got my rights too, and my right to economic activity has been closed off for the past 10 years.
So you're kind of saying, like, if you're guilty, right?
Yeah.
Which obviously you say you're not.
Yeah.
Deal with me.
Do the damn thing.
Do it. Don't just keep it open
Don't
going
keep
forever
it,
though. Yeah.
you know,
I agree with that.
yeah.
I feel like if people have done something, face the consequences to those actions 100%. But it is a weird situation, because I was curious when I heard you speak about it before, if it's still going on.
It's still going on.
That is, yeah.
And the interesting thing, Josh, sorry, just a minute there. And I'm one of millions of people, not just in South Africa, but I mean, funny and strange but true. I form part of the majority unbanked society in this country. I mean, what is it? It sits at like 70% of people that don't have bank accounts. Yeah, I did the whole thing. Got my little Bob T card back in the day. Went through, did the damn thing, transacted the highest levels, and then now I'm part of the unbanked majority. Which is crazy. The barriers to entry when it comes to people having access to bank, because it becomes increasingly difficult. Forget me, everyone else. We're going cashless. We're going paperless. Everything is Zapper. Everything is tap. Everything. People are not even swiping anymore. I mean, EFTs and
I just use my phone.
You know what I'm saying? So where does that leave everyone else?
Yeah. Don't
have those. I can't go into a Starbucks, and it's happened a few times, embarrassingly enough, where places like Starbucks, I mean Woolies, Woolworths, has gone down that route. You'll get that day. You get there. You didn't get the notification that no more cash, baba. You get there, now you're in the front of the queue, and everyone is like,
it just declines.
Yeah, look at your little punk ass. What now? No, not declare. I don't have a card.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, so it's just like you pulling out your little trinkets, and
you're
like,
cash.
Yeah, and it's like, sometimes fortunately someone will be like, no. We got you. It's all good. And sometimes it's got to be that guy that just does the walk of shame.
And was there any other kind of fallout, right? Because I know, so your bank accounts were closed, and did you lose anything else because of this?
Yeah, for sure. A whole host of properties, businesses. So at the time
and your cars, your house, like
everything, man.
Everything. They took everything.
It's everything was attached. Asset forfeiture till this day. A lot of the stuff was sold off without our permission through the business rescue practitioners. Besides properties, actual businesses, IP in those businesses worth hundreds of millions of dollars. If you look at our mines that were attached, they're supposed to run under business rescue. It's under new ownership, as part of SIPC, as part of Companies Acts, shareholders, our shareholders' rights. Let me speak for myself. My shareholder rights haven't been respected and haven't been upheld. Companies gone. And I'm talking about companies that are turning over and profiting billions a year. So that has happened. So I sit in this situation where I'm like, okay, I'm seeing all this happening. I've worked my life off to build up to this, and this was the dream. It was taken away, which is cool. We grown-ups. We know how to survive. We'll fight on. But it's an unfortunate situation for what constitutionality is, because people are quick to talk about constitutional right this, constitutional right that. Mine have been trampled and pissed on. That's what's happened. And everyone thinks it's cool.
And what does that look like? So they come and just seize all your stuff. Were you even there when they did that?
At that time, no, I wasn't here at that time when they started. So what happens is, it's a process.
Yeah.
It starts off with the allegations. Then, and I speak for myself. I don't like speaking on behalf of other people.
Yeah.
It's allegations. Then it's a trumped up charges. Then it's, okay, this is what you've been found guilty of. Okay, we need to stop you because there's certain monies moving around. That's when the asset forfeiture steps in. So they basically seize your stuff until further notice, meaning until the problem is resolved.
So you could get it back in the future?
I don't want it back.
Okay.
It's been 10 years. I'm not going to mention their names, but there's other guys that have gone through similar. You get your stuff back. It's dilapidated. It's
been sitting in some storehouse somewhere.
And that's the properties as well. 10 years later of nothingness, you're not going to find it needs a complete revamp.
Yeah.
I've moved on from it. I believe in failing forward. I believe in
moving.
Yeah, and the doctrine of keeping it moving. I'm a keeping it moving kind. I keep it moving.
Yeah.
What happens after the fact happens after the fact. Happens. And where I'm at, I'm in a good place. These experiences that we have, fortunately, are not ones that are new to the world. You look at why there's certain products that have been introduced into the financial space, such as your cryptocurrencies and that sort of thing.
I saw you. So is that how you're kind of dealing with money now?
I'm not saying that's how I'm dealing with it, but I'm
you're
saying
not
that.
I'm sure.
No, not even that. Not that I honestly, I firmly believe in the cryptocurrency space. I believe in what that has done to even the playing field.
Yeah.
For people that may not have access to the normal financial means because of whatever the reason is. I respect it. I appreciate it. I advocate for it. I'll definitely promote it because, fortunately for me, I've been affected by the same the same issue. So it only makes sense. And I do believe people in the world need options, and it's an option. It's a viable option. It's an option that people didn't think was going to work or was going to live long, and it's there.
And just to end off, I want to ask you just two more questions.
Sure.
I'll ask you one question, actually. We'll end on a happy note.
That would be great.
What's the best moment of your life? Like the single best moment, not day, not week, just like the one moment where you were like, this is living. This is the best.
Well, this morning when I rocked up to the Wide Awake podcast.
Was the coffee that good?
The coffee was amazing. I'm going for a second cup. The happiest, most relieved moment I've had was sitting on a plane. I'll lead up to that. I flew back from Dubai to South Africa. This had to do with this whole state capture thing. And fighting the cases from the outside because, it was a bit volatile at that moment to be living in South Africa, didn't have accounts, couldn't survive, had to go make ends meet elsewhere in the world. So my younger brother passes away, right? And, as anyone would know, it's losing, we've all lost people. Losing people is not an easy thing. And, that was my little homie. So I'm faced with a decision to come back. And at some point I was despondent with what was happening. I was speaking to the lawyers and I'm like, hey man, these people can go to hell, screw them, blah, blah, blah. And I remember getting on the phone, speaking to my father at the time. At that time. He's still my father. I'm saying at that time, meaning a few years ago. Not like he's not my father anymore.
Yeah.
So at that time, he was like, look, you have to come back. Haven't seen you in some time. Everyone expects to see you at the funeral because for some reason they thought I was going to come to the funeral because I was dealing with a lot. Pressure was through the roof at that time. Not just in South Africa, but in different parts of the world. I mean, they sent people everywhere, to India, to the UAE, to the UK, to Switzerland. They're just basically investigating. There was Interpol stuff. There was just a whole host of stuff. But anyways, fly back, and I don't know what to expect. So fortunately, managed to get my lawyers over to Dubai, and may he rest in peace, Advocate Rudy Krause. He passed away. He was my attorney. And he came, managed to have a conversation, got our story ducks in a row. Expect this, SAPs, Hawks, NPA, whatever. This is what it looks like. Anything that happens between these two barriers is possible. If it doesn't, well, it's your good fortune. All right, cool, let's go. So I land at OR Tambo in Johannesburg. It was a Thursday. So my brother's funeral was on the Saturday. So I haven't seen anyone for 2-3 years. Land at the airport, jump off the flight, and I make my dash to immigration. Get to immigration, there's a notice. The notice is to the side, the boys in blue are waiting for you. So I'm like, okay, cool. What is this based on? No, what the immigration officer spoke about was some case that was charge that was laid at the Rosebank police station. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm easy, sat, waited, and then my lawyers were on the same flight, and they came after me, and they realized what the situation was, and they're like, okay, cool. We'll go through, and they understand the process. So you have to be processed because you're still in basically international waters when you haven't crossed. So there's a holding, there's a police station with a holding cell. They took me there, and then from there, they transferred me to the outside police station, which my lawyers had already spoken to the station commander there. And then there was a team of Hawks National that were there, and they're like, what the hell are these guys doing here? So when I got there, they were trying to get me into a room to interrogate me, and my lawyers were like, no, you guys, it's not the way that it works. So we won that battle, jumped in our vehicle, and they said, look, we're letting you go, but on Sunday, we have to come and do an inspection at your place of, apparently this is the process, your place of residence, so we can see that you're here, you're not running, you're not a flight risk, and we can confirm that this is your address that we can find you at. I'm like, cool. So that's a Thursday. Friday, meet up with the family, haven't seen people in a while, so we do the whole song and dance. Saturday is my brother's funeral, and it's a tough time, and there's a lot of pressure. And that goes the way it goes. So Sunday was really, okay, it wasn't a rest day because you had to go back to us, but at my place, the guys from the Hawks came to do the inspections and all that sort of stuff. Monday, I'm being handed over to the police in relation to the state capture stuff. So John Foster in the Johannesburg CBD, taken into the holding cells, being processed. So this is the first time we're supposed to get a look at the charge sheet. So we're in this, what is next to the cell. My lawyers are like, hey guys, can we see the charge sheet? And the police officials were being very evasive with it because in hindsight, when we realized afterwards, there was no charge. It was an empty charge sheet. And we're still going to get to that. They think I've forgotten. They're coming for you. So anyways, left it. So we left John Foster, then we went to the specialized, so straight from there, they wanted to put me into the paddy wagon. And my lawyers are like, nah, guys, you're not going to make this dramatic. This is a simple thing. Man's here on his own volition. He's going to jump in the car with you. So put him in the back, you do whatever, but he's not jumping into the back of that van. So we jump into this Golf whatever it was at that time, 7, 6, off to Specialized Commercial Crimes Court, which is 5 minutes away from John Foster. Get there, and there's a bit of a frenzy because now it's like, we've got one of them. So it's like a whole bunch. It was weird. So anyways, we drive up to, which is a correct process, through the underground parking, and there's a holding cell there. So I'm just like, I've never been to a cell in my life, and in the space of 3 days, I'm in 3 holding cells. So we get there, and now I'm being processed to be taken up. Okay, your call time's at 9:30. Be ready. So waiting in the holding cells, the cops there, and they're having conversation. And time to go up. The guys bring the shackles, and the cops are like, "Hey, what are you doing, my lawyer, Rudy, Mr. Krause?" It's like, "Hey, guys, what are you doing?" It's like, no, we need to shackle him up. And it's like, "What do you mean shackle? I've been here many times. I've dealt with you guys, and I've represented a lot of clients. This is not the order of business." The guy's like, no, it's been special instructions. We need to shackle and handcuff this guy. And so there's a back and forth and arguing. Anyways, at some point I'm like, okay, now we're going to be late. And then, I will be late for our court appearance. And now we don't want to be the guys there, and the judge is like, okay, you guys think you're special, you're coming at your own time. So I'm like, look, we need to be there before time, not on time. Chief, you're going to slap on the shackles. It's some bullshit, but if that's what you're going to do it so we can get on with our day. And that's what happened. Some were unhappy. Some were happy. This was what it was. Got led up to the courtroom, did the whole thing, and there was a bail application, and managed to make that application. And at that point, they didn't want me to get my travel documents back, but we managed to do so because our legal representation was top-notch. Got the passport back. That was a Monday. On the Wednesday. So anyways, leave the court, that's a Monday. Tuesday's a break, and then on the Wednesday, have to appear in front of the State Capture Commission. First appearance. Get there in front of the judge, or the commissioner as they call them, for the commission, and then that is postponed. And then on the Thursday, I had to attend my culpable homicide case for the car accident. Well, I was so worn the F out. So the guys were like, look, hang around, we'll do whatever briefings. I'm like, guys, give me my passport. Literally from the courtroom, booked my flight. I was booked my flight on my way there, got my bags, got to the airport. Now sitting at a restaurant in the airport, and I could see people looking at me and like taking these, those sneak
Photos,
peeks, like, he's escaping. There was some
on the run, yeah.
Yeah, on the run, the Twitter thing and the social media stuff. And then when I got back I got onto the plane, and sat on my seat, first class seat, by the way, thank goodness. Bro, the relief, and I can't think of. There's many. I mean, we have many occasions in life that we are grateful for, thankful, happy about.
Yeah.
But I remember that specific feeling when the plane was taxiing. I remember that moment. I mean, we've all had great moments, sad moments, but that moment, it was dealing with the grief of losing my brother. It was a State Capture Commission appearance. It was a culpable homicide case appearance. It was a Specialized Commercial Crimes Court appearance. I was worn out. And I remember that feeling of relief as the plane took off. I was like, if I could survive that week, I can survive anything.
I could imagine being in that position, just going through all of that, man, over probably months or years.
Years, yeah.
Just sitting back in that chair and going,
man, you got no idea, bro.
Crazy, man.
That time, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was just, because I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I was just like, it was preparation, it was documentation, it was prepping with the lawyers. Then it was a grief. It was, we haven't seen you in some time.
But then you get to that moment and it's just like, that part of it's over now.
Done, okay. It was just literally a day at a time. Okay, next. Then it was limited sleep, preparing, and then anxiety. And it was just like,
Crazy,
but that was. But we all go through our traumatic
Yeah, for sure.
experiences. The one thing that I have to say is, no matter what happens, you've got to push through.
100%.
That's it. That's the only thing. We all go through our shit. You got to man up, take it on the chest, and push through. Yeah.
Well, the phone's ringing.
That's
I think someone's trying to tell us to end this. So.
I think so.
Dudu, thank you so much for coming down, man. And for those that didn't know, Dudu actually flew here for this interview.
We've been speaking, and I've been trying to get you to have this conversation. That's my phone, by the way. My bad. It's very.
I was hoping it wasn't mine.
It's very unprofessional of me. It wasn't on flight mode, but I'm just trying to
Anyway.
keep a few. But anyways, I'm a huge fan of what it is that you do.
Thanks, man.
The show is one thing, but what you're doing, pushing the boundaries, you're stepping into zones that most people are not able to. You're a lily white dude stepping into the most darkest places, and it's not just the threat of danger, but seeing those environments. You need to have a strong heart and a strong stomach and a strong mind
man.
to actually understand what's happening, and for you to do it over and over again, and to interact with people that have gone through the deepest traumatic. People may look at them as criminals, but there's always a backstory to it.
100%.
To go through that and to be able to semi-counsel them, to semi-counsel us.
I need counseling.
I don't know how you do it, man. And you're in your own lane.
Man.
There's no one else doing it, and I'm a huge fan of what you do.
Thank you.
There's a lot of people that tune into what you do globally as well. I've got guys all the way in the Middle East, and they hit you up on social media. And major respect for what it is that you do. So, for me to have this opportunity on your platform, in relation to all the other stuff that you do, and to fit me into this space, I highly appreciate it, bro. Thank you very much.
And I really appreciate you spending your time coming down here, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, with all the things going on behind scene, the camera switched off like 4 times in the past 10 minutes.
We'll get through it.
Yeah, man. But
we'll get through it.
Yeah. Life's not that serious always,
No.
Back in the day when I first started the show, I probably would have freaked out about something like that. Gone, Mom, the camera. But it's just like...
It is what it is. We carry on here. Just got to keep it moving. That's life. You can't not... people take things too seriously. People just need to just... Chill the hell up. Calm down.
And listen to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, man, for coming down.
Thank you very much, man.
And thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Wide Awake podcast. And I'll see you all very soon. Cheers.